Thank you for tuning in to Church of Aliens. Um, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there is this really interesting interview with Jim Semivan from TTSA, the vice president, if I'm not mistaken. So he was I think he's the former director of clandestine operations for the CIA, and he now works with Tom DeLonge, and he did an amazing interview with a podcast called Aliens and Artists. And I want to talk a little bit about it. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's a really interesting podcast. The guy has an amazing voice. But I've enjoyed listening to a few of his episodes. There was another one with Diana Walsh Pasolka that was really interesting. And another one with Jeff Kripal that I really liked. And I recommend everybody to go and have a look on his YouTube and also on his Patreon. He's got a lot of great stuff on there. But yeah, he recently did an interview with Jim Semivan about probably a month ago, where he was just sort of getting into the phenomenon and certain aspects of it. His role in TTSA and his past. Talked a little bit about the CIA, and it was really interesting to hear his insights. But there was a few things that were really stood out for me. One was him describing his experiences that he's had with this, would you call it, beings or entities. He explained that I would say for most of his life, he's had these sorts of experiences, but he mentioned one with his wife that happened in their bedroom. So apparently, they were both awake, and he said I think there were two beings appeared at the foot of their bed, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he said he described them looking like Death Eaters, which I'm not really sure what that is. Tried to Google something on it, I couldn't really find anything except a reference to Harry Potter. But he said that he wasn't afraid, and that he didn't really say much else about it. He would just said he had this experience, and he's had several before after that. It hasn't really stopped. But he said that when he's had these experiences, he's never really felt afraid, which is really interesting. And something else that really stood out for me was apparently it left some sort of secondary effects to their bodies. There was some sort of material or an implant or something that they removed from his wife's face, which sounded crazy. And I think something with him too. He wasn't too specific, but some sort of ailment he had with this sort of experience in the past. And he did say that it had to do with genetics and how he's constantly having these, because I've heard that also, that usually if it's in your family or in the past, a lot of these experiences keep on happening. They don't just happen with isolated events. So it's really interesting to hear that from somebody so high up in the CIA. And what else? He mentioned something. He mentioned that there is no lexicon to talk about this issue, which is really interesting. So there's no way he sees to really have a discussion about what is happening. He says the closest we can come is through religion or some stories or symbols and things like that. But really, we don't have any language for this experience, for what we're seeing and hearing. And that was really interesting in my perspective of how or if religion could provide uh, some sort of language for these experiences, and whether that's even accurate. Um, so, in my case, looking at Christianity or something in the Bible could explain these things, and I think it could explain it to some extent. Like it could be um, some sort of spiritual entity um, that comes and could aid you, could do something to you. Um, but it doesn't really belong here. It's not from here. Um, it's something foreign. Um, there's some parts in some stories regarding that in the Bible, uh, and others that are not. Like some references to angels. They clearly have a message for the people of God, or they're helping people get out of jail. They have a mission, but the ones that we're hearing, the stories like Jim Evans, doesn't really have anything. Like it happens to him. He gets some sort of ailment from the experience, some sickness, um, and there's nothing like there's no message at all. Like he doesn't receive any encouragement. There's nothing like even he said he feels angry about it because he can't really do anything with it. Um, and that's one of the reasons why he said he felt, in his opinion, he was hesitant for the public to know a lot more about this because what are they gonna, what are people gonna go to? Where are they gonna turn to? Like the pastors aren't gonna really help. Um, the scientists aren't really gonna help. Philosophy isn't gonna help you with this. So like, understood it from their perspective, how there is no lexicon. There is nothing really to glue this together with the human experience. Um, but also in that vein, I do think something like what Tom DeLonge is doing, making movies, writing stories and books, is creating some sort of a map um, for us to talk about this, make sense of it. Um, Even his books, his fiction books, Secret Machines, is causing some sort of meaning, some story that we can sort of tether to. Uh, so that really makes sense. I mean, Jim has teamed up with Tom to because he heard about these books that he was writing, and he had some secret or pretty important information and wanted to work with him. And I think he did it because there was something like he did know something that he shouldn't have at that time, and was telling it to the people in a book. So I do think there is some sort of way to communicate this to people. I don't think it's just there's nothing we can do to understand this. I think there is some things we can understand. I just think it's also like how Lou Elizondo was asked the question, how would people react if they knew everything that he knew? And he paused and said that it would be a somber moment. People would turn away from religion and also run towards religion. So I do think that there is something about this phenomenon that is unnerving, and there is some sort of like it's hard news. It doesn't seem like there it is all positive. Like that's one thing I find interesting. Like Ryan Bledsoe and the Chris Bledsoe story, it sounds so positive. Like these beings are here to help you, to guide humanity to their, the guardians of Earth and all this. It could be true. But then, but what's that? How is that a somber sort of story to tell human beings? It doesn't really make sense when you compare it to what Lou Elizondo is saying. And it could be that, people just have different opinions about what they've experienced, what they've seen. Maybe people aren't as accurate as they think they are. Um, so yeah, I still believe that religion can provide a lot of context for this in regards to also Genesis, how human beings were created, and how there was fallen angels that, in a sense, interbred with human beings. Um, Now, whether those fallen angels are what you would call bad aliens or evil aliens or beings with not a positive intent for human beings, we're not sure. Maybe they are. Maybe they're trying to help human beings. Um, Not sure. But I do think it provides at least some thread of a story that we can cling on to, that we can make sense of this. But yeah, just want to share. This is a really interesting um, episode on a podcast called Aliens and Artists. Um, I'm trying to think anything else he mentioned that was really interesting. Yeah, I just think it was interesting just hearing how he just doesn't believe that the public is ready for this. I just find that really fascinating, and it kind of, to me, it sparks more of you can understand why people create theories and believe in weird stories and that there's an occult sort of thing behind this phenomenon, because if a select group of people, say people in the CIA, in the military, in science, know this information, and for them it could just devastate humanity, where they think people are just going to be running wild in the streets or causing mass suicides. There has to be some story, something that they know that is damaging, and they want to protect us in a sense. But I find it weird that, who gives them the right to decide that for the rest of the world? Um, I don't really agree with that. Like, um, I think there is no sort of middle ground. I think it's either keep it secret until I don't know when, or just reveal what people know. Because, I mean, what they're doing now is just releasing more videos, more clips, more interviews with pilots and radar. But it's not really telling the story. They're just giving us some sort of science, some data of what is happening. But definitely, they're not going to tell us what they're doing. I'm sure there's videos of them landing somewhere, doing something coming out of those, and where they are as well. I don't think they're going to be sharing all that information. It's just, here's an image of something doing something wild in the sky or in the ocean or somewhere, but it's not really telling the story of what this is. Um, so it's a bit frustrating as well hearing things like that from Jim Semivan. I mean, I wish Tom DeLonge would do more interviews and explain more of his side of story, but even then, a lot of it, what he says is crazy shit. But it's entertaining, and he knows how to talk to younger people and tell a story. So we'll see what happens in the future. Hopefully, I would love him to go on the Joe Rogan podcast again, even if he did it with someone like Jim Semivan or something like that, just to explain more what he believes in and why he believes that, and to prove, to have evidence for what he's saying. I think that'll be really great for everybody. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll catch you on the next one.